thank you all again for joining us and welcome to another 30-minute talks. I'm your host for today, Alan Williams, and joining me today is, as you know, Professor Perry Hobson, Dr. Andy Nazarechuk, and our guest, who we will introduce to you more formally very shortly, Professor Marcus Stevenson from Sunway University. Perry, why don't you say hi and tell us what's happening in Malaysia and give us a quick update.
Well, as we started these weeks, we're coming into week 18, 19 of this. And again, since we started the shows, and every week we've got some good news and some bad news. I think more people are becoming realistic about the impact of COVID and how long this is going to go on for. Malaysia, we're very lucky here at the moment. Things have remained very calm. And so the infection rate has maintained here. But as we've seen around the region, with outbreaks in Vietnam, what's happening in Melbourne and Australia, and as far away as Aberdeen in Scotland as well, where various lockdowns have happened. So again, it's a very mixed bag around the world. I think the tourism industry is trying to juggle. It's been interesting watching Emirates Airlines come out with offers of hospitalisation as they're trying to get Dubai back up and functioning. Emirates is launching more flights, but other airlines are struggling with where to go with that, sending more planes for long-term storage. So again, it's a bit of a mixed bag. And I think, again, if we go back to our show on the cruise industry several months ago, a lot of the cruise lines have actually had to postpone their sailings again. So it's, again, continues to be a mixed bag, Alan.
Thank you very much, Perry. And I'm very happy to know that Malaysia, it's also stopped raining for today's show. Thank you very much. And Dr. Andy, why don't you say hi and give us a little bit of an update from the Philippines?
Well, of course, I'm reporting from the Philippines in Subic Bay, and we have entered the rainy season. And I can say in the last week, I've seen more rain than I've seen in many years. It is actually a beautiful sunny day. So the Philippines is doing very well today. And the Philippines continues to improve and continues to make changes to prevent the spread of the virus, and they're doing very well. And now we just have to hope that things slow down faster than we hope. And we're going to be fine. But I think we're moving in the right direction.
Fantastic. And I think for myself, we've got a bit of a mixed bag in Australia. Some of the states are holding their own weight, and things are have improved and remaining stable. But there are other states like Victoria and potentially New South Wales now, but Victoria in particular, where the COVID virus has been acting up, playing up for a little bit of time. There's a greater level of infection in that state, but hopefully things are starting to settle. They've been in lockdown for a while, and it looks like things are slowly under control. But as we know, there's a big lag factor with this virus. And on that note, Perry, I'll get you to thank again formally our academic partners. As you know, without them, I'll get Andy to do this if you don't mind. Just thank our academic partners for today.
As always, we always appreciate the support of our academic partners, and LPU, one of our favorite schools in the Philippines, is one of our biggest supporters. University of Santo Tomas is one of the more famous schools in this region. We have the University of Hawaii at Manoa, Sunway University, and our guest Marcus Stevenson is from Sunway University, our guest for today, and Macau Tourism and Hospitality Association, National Kaohsiung University from Taiwan. We have COREP, which is the Council of Hotel and Restaurant Educators of the Philippines, which we did a very special talk last week for them. And we also have our friend from Silver Mountain School of Hotel Management in Nepal. So a wonderful list. We have HELIF, which is a Higher Education Leadership Institute in Australia. So these are our current academic partners, and they've all been very supportive by promoting the program and getting their students to attend the program. So thank you very much to our academic partners.
Yes, thank you to one and all, and thank you, Dr. Andy. And Perry, why don't you, I've kept this slot for you. Why don't you thank our guest today, and also, as we've said before, our latest academic partner.
Yeah, look, I'm just very quickly like to introduce my colleague, Professor Marcus Stevenson. Marcus and I work together at Sunway University, and I can see Marcus there on the screen, and he's joined us today as our guest, and we'll be involving him later in the show in terms of our discussion after Dr. Andy's presentation. And Marcus has got a long background in hospitality and tourism education, like myself, originally from the UK. And again, he's worked, we've kind of moved in sort of opposite ways around the world. Marcus has worked in Dubai in the Middle East for many years, then went to Fiji. And while I was in the US, Hong Kong and Australia, and then we ended up literally bumping into each other and meeting up here at Sunway University. So again, part of the very international profile that Sunway University has with colleagues who are from and have been educated in many different parts of the world. So Marcus, welcome. It's great to have you here. Please say hello to everybody.
Hello, very pleased to be here. And it was literally bumping into each other. If I remember, it was in this somewhere shopping mall, and we literally was walking along and said, "Oh, we know each other." And I think that's, yeah. So it was very much bumping into, yeah.
That's right. So look, it's great to have you on the show, and we're looking forward to involving you in a discussion later. And I'm also very pleased to introduce the International Centre of Excellence in Tourism and Hospitality Education. As we've discussed in previous shows, accreditation is something that's very important for quality assurance, and having many educators on the show to know that your institution has been looked at. I've been involved with the ICE for many, many years. I started my involvement probably back in 2003 with the ICE, and it's now the world's leading accreditation body for hospitality and tourism education. And so we're very pleased to welcome them as another academic partner to 30 Minutes. Back to you, Alan.
Just a quick note, Alan. I see Paul Whitelaw is on our attendance list today. So, Paul, welcome to us. We're glad that the ICE is actually able to support us and become an academic partner for our program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. And for those people that don't know, Paul is the chair of the ICE. So I think all three of us have got a long affiliation with the ICE. And I know many of our academic partners are associated and members of the ICE. So thanks again to the ICE. Well, thank you very much, Perry. And as everybody knows, 90 seconds has become a feature of the 30 Minutes Talks. And today we have another 90 seconds for you. Here we go. Welcome to 90 Seconds, presented by myself, Alan Williams. Today I'm going to share with you why managing online reviews is the new marketing strategy. As we all know, today, brand reputation is largely dependent on what your guests say about their experiences through online reviews, comments and photos posted on social media. In fact, social media sites are the second most trusted source of information for consumers around the world, with only personal recommendations being considered more reliable. You may not know, but these are the current top 4 traveller review sites, and so now more than ever, it is important to build your social content and regularly post updates to keep in touch with your customers. Guest reviews and comments can either help to promote a hotel's reputation or destroy it. Remember, guest posts, whether positive or negative, can be viewed and distributed thousands of times before even being seen by the hotel. Hotels therefore need to diversify and use social media platforms and integrated social media monitoring strategies to manage their overall brand reputation. Monitoring social media is as important as using social media. And remember, social media is not so much about the individual posts, it's more about the effect of any one post on your wider audience. So while using social media to market your business is essential, investing in a social media monitoring tool is equally as important. Social monitoring is a critical part of any online marketing strategy, and responding to online posts and reviews, good or bad, has been shown to lead to stronger brand loyalty among your hotel customers. Thank you for watching another 90 seconds. Fantastic, and thank you everybody for your great comments for 90 seconds over the time, and I'm hoping that that one 90-second segment added to some of the knowledge that we share with you through that segment. And now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce our presenter for today, who's known to everybody, no doubt, at the session, Dr. Andy Nazarechuk. And he will share with you his thoughts all about the future of work. And he'll ask the question, are you ready? Dr. Andy, look forward to a really exciting presentation. I've had the privilege of having seen parts of this. I'm looking forward to seeing the full thing. Over to you.
Well, to unshare your screen, I'll open up my PowerPoint. We'll get started, and looking forward to sharing a little bit about the future, because the future is here and we all have to be ready for it. So if you look at the real reason I'm showing this today is because today we're all involved in a pandemic and we have to look forward. We have to see how are you going to be prepared for the future. But in order to be ready for the future, I want to show you a few visionaries of the future. Everybody knows Steve Jobs. You know, Steve Jobs invented the iPhone. Isn't that true? Well, not really. Steve Jobs was a wonderful visionary who saw the potential of the iPhone. Actually, Steve Wozniak actually invented the computer. He was the tech guy that built all this stuff. Steve was the guy who promoted it and made it internationally known. And in fact, if you think that Steve Wozniak was a tech student, where Steve Jobs was a liberal arts student, And one of the reasons you have fonts on your computer today is because he took a calligraphy class in the liberal arts school, and that's why we have so many fonts today. So an interesting thing about Steve Jobs. But of course, today, Elon Musk. Does everybody know who Elon Musk is? Well, he invented the Tesla electric car. Isn't that true? Well, no, he didn't. Mark and Martin did. They were the ones that invented the actual car, but Elon Musk is the one that had the vision to take it global and to expand that idea in the world. I like Elon Musk because he is a true visionary. Because how many people would believe that his goal is to put people on Mars? Now, isn't that a vision? That's a visionary who can say, I want to put people on Mars. And not only did he say it, but he invested billions of dollars and is building things that have never been done before so that he can make it affordable to reach that goal, reach his dream. That's what we all do. So for the question, we asked the question before the show, who would want to go live on Mars? And if you look at that funny looking rocket on the left, that is a prototype of the type of rocket they're going to send with people to Mars someday. We'll have to wait to see how long that takes. But today, we're going to talk about visionaries of the future. My two favorite visionaries, William Hanna and Joseph Barbera. Anybody know who they are? Because you do know who they are, because if you have seen Yogi Bear or Fred Flintstone and all the cartoons of famous cartoons, those were the guys that created those cartoons. And today, we're going to talk about how they were visionaries for the future. Because in 1962, I want you to think about that, 1962, they created the vision of a typical family of the future. So in 1962, they were creating a vision of the person who's going to live in 2022. Actually, no, actually longer than that. So the Jetsons, everybody know the Jetsons? So we must, in order to know what the future looks like, we need to know what it's going to look like to determine what skills we're going to be in. So think about it. In 1962, they predicted that the Jetsons, what they would look like in the year 2062. So an amazing view of the future. So the question is, let's see how close they came. And so you can see by that cartoon that the future is different. But did you notice a few things? They're still going to school. They're still going to work. I don't know. But today we have to determine, what do employers want in the future? And they want someone who's dependable, especially now in an online environment. Employees that do what they told. They want be on time, low wages, work long hours. These are what employers want. It's a hard look at. They want never to be sick. They don't want you to complain. No need for vacations, no quality work, no drama, no excuses. They want a robot. And today we are moving towards a robotic world. A lot of robots are taking over different kinds of jobs. So we have to change our skills in order to meet the needs of the future. So let's talk about a couple of these things. This was one vision of the future. Does this look familiar? That's what we're doing now. In 1962, you couldn't even fathom that you would have a video conference with people around the world. The internet didn't even exist. And people were afraid to go on video conferencing in the beginning because they didn't want to look like this. People didn't want to be seen in their day-to-day operations. We have overcome that. This is, I'm working from home, you're working from home, everybody's working from home. So we're a little bit more casual and not so concerned. But in the beginning, Skype was very popular. And I used Skype very, very often and found that it was very easy to use and used it for my international communications. But I have moved away from Skype, and now I am using Zoom, and what we're using for this session today. And Zoom is a very compatible platform for online teaching. So whether it be Meet or there be the other Teams, there's so many different programs. Now you have choices to see which one works best for you. So online is true. How about the flying car? Are we going to have flying cars? Well, the answer to that is, well, yes, because someday you're just going to go to work in a drone. And these are drones that are actually being used today. In Dubai, they have autonomous air taxi. It just started. There's doing some in Europe. The packages are being delivered in some places using drones. And certain specialty drones are used to drop rescue rafts out to people in the ocean, or to videotape fires, or to fertilize crops. So technology has grown so fast that it's able to use drones to move around the world. So that they were correct when they saw that a long time ago. I'm going to give you one example, another video of drones and how you can use that in the hospitality industry. I thought this was amazing and something that we all should consider when we're having that big event in the future. These are all drones that are being used for an event in China. And you can see there's thousands of them actually. And the drones are going to be used instead of fireworks. And fireworks can be a dangerous activity. Look at the technology. And this video is more sophisticated these days. So I get that. That's a good example of using technology. Drones. I used to do a lot of conventions and exhibitions and events, and that would have been a great thing to have. How about the watch? This was something that was a cartoon in the past, and people said that'll never happen. But here we are. We're actually having the watches that we can use for video calls or for messages, information. It's amazing what has changed in such a short time. This is one area where I think they did get wrong. You see, they still believe that cash would still be in a wallet. They didn't get this one right, because what do we have today? Well, we have Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. We have digital transfer of funds. And for those people that don't understand what cryptocurrency is, I'm going to give you the shortest explanation I can, but it's a digital ledger called the blockchain. The blockchain is really the strength of cryptocurrencies. And what that means is when there's a transaction done in the internet, it's divided to multiple nodes. Different places have all the information. And if you try to change one number in that system, the system goes, you can't do that, because it has to match all the other places where the information is stored. So it's a very secure way of moving financial transactions over the internet using what they call the blockchain. So that's a good way to understand how things are going to change. And the other thing is Etherscan is one way you can look at every transaction that has ever been made on the blockchain. You go to Etherscan and you can see it there. It's all transparent. Interesting way that I think they missed. How about food? Now in the future, in the Jetsons, they had machines making their food. Well, guess what? We have that here too. They're starting to have machines that are starting to produce food, different kinds. This is an experimental one. And, of course, Rosie the Robot, we all want a Rosie the Robot to take care of us when we're staying at home. And so we wanted to cook our food and clean the house. And do you think that would really happen? Well, I'm going to show you, will Rosie ever have our meals ready for us when we come home? How many of you would like that? Well, that's a good question. I think there's someone you can put a comment in the thing. Would you like to have a robot or automated system have your meal ready when you get home? Let's take a look. And you think there's an artificial commercial? No, this is a company that actually has made this robotic system that cooks food. It's still in development. They're still working for funding, but this is actually being made, and someday you'll see that in your kitchen. How about driverless cars? We talked about Tesla before. Tesla, the driverless cars are already here. They're all over the world. People are starting to use them more and more. And so driverless cars will also change the world. How is it going to change? This is what you have to think about. The virus has changed the way we work, and so now we have to work differently. But when technology disrupts things, you have to think about the future. So if there were driverless cars, there may not be any need for taxis anymore, because an automated car will come pick you up. buses, truck drivers. You don't even need traffic cops anymore because robotic cars are not going to speed. Car insurance will go down because there won't be any more accidents. There'll be less accidents, less need for hospitals and doctors, no parking lots, no traffic lights, no gas stations. Well, why fly? We can just get in the car and set the timer and go somewhere. All these things are changes that are affected by technology. And today, the technology that's changing the world is the internet and video conferencing and working and learning from home. So how are we going to do that? Now, this is another example of artificial intelligence. Now, does everybody know a Rubiks Cube, the little thing he's holding? So artificial intelligence is how we think and how we do things. So let's take, the question to you is, how fast can he solve this Rubiks Cube? You can all write your comment in the chat room there. So take a quick sec. How many seconds can he do it in? And we got a few people writing things down. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Oh, we got a lot of numbers coming in. Jerry Agrusa from Hawaii said 22 seconds. Jerry, come on, that's old. Move on. The question is, how fast can a robot solve a Rubik's Cube? Anybody want to put, so I'll give everybody a second to put, well, there's some people here, some interesting seconds. All right, good. All right, let's watch this one and see how long it takes a robot. Now think about this. If they can solve a Rubik's Cube, can they check somebody in at the front desk? Can they cook your meal? Can they clean a room? All these things are going to become possible.
Solving in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, yeah.
Did it.
Watch. I think somebody's pretty good. I think like a quarter of a second. And you see how the machine is making the changes necessary to solve the Rubik's Cube. So an experiment by a school in order to do that. Interesting use of technology. So the question becomes, what kind of skills will you need in the future job? Well, if we look at Jack Ma, he gave some very good information at a conference a couple of years ago. And he said, we're going to need to improve our soft skills to make sure that humans are different from machines, because machines will be replacing a lot of the day-to-day operations in many different industries. So some of those soft skills, values. What are your values? What do you believe in? What are you going to push forward to make it happen? Independent thinking, I think that's an important one. Teamwork, care for others. He also felt that art, sports, music, and painting will become more important because we will have more time for those pleasures, because machines and technology will be doing a lot of the work that we have done in the past. Now, let me give you my list. What skills will we need in the future? Well, my key thing is cognitive skills, the ability of an individual to perform various mental activities most closely associated with learning and problem solving. Yes, learning and problem solving. That's what you're doing right now. You're learning how to learn from home, and you have to solve the problem of doing it without going to class. So let's think about this. Critical thinking skills, analysis, that's a good, that's one of the things we're gonna have to be able to solve problems and think of ways to solve problems. We have to learn how to make decisions, because decision-making skills will be the things that the machines don't do. They're gonna wait for you to make a decision. You have to be willing to take risks. You have to be able to be confident. So building confidence and to make decisions is an important skill. Strategic thinking, future thinking. See, that's what Steve Jobs, that's what Elon Musk, that's what Hanna-Barbera, all were future thinkers. They didn't think about what's happening today. They were thinking, what's it going to be like in the future? So all those things are future thinking skills you have to do. Now, technology skills, what we're using now is technology every day. Everybody's got their phone. In fact, Alan Williams and I are going to do, in 2 weeks, we're going to do a special show on technology featuring how to use apps in order to be more successful in your day-to-day life. So that's going to be in a couple weeks. Keep an eye out for that one. And the ability to lead a team. Now, leading the team, how? especially in video conferencing, getting things done, social skills. You're gonna have to work with people in different cultures around different time frames in different places of the world. All those things are gonna be important. And the last thing, self-discipline. You can talk about all these things, but in reality, you have to have the self-discipline to get these things done. Set goals, set plans, set schedules, and reach those goals. Those are some of the things that I think are some of very important skills that people are going to have in the future. And if you look at these, all of these, you can learn from your teachers, you can learn from your parents, you can learn from the internet, and you can learn yourself. So take advantage of the opportunity you have now to improve your cognitive skills, because those are the skills that are going to be in demand in the future. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is we're working from home now. Is working from home the new normal? Yeah, we are in the new normal. This is it. We're already there. Things are not going to go back to the way it was. Things are going to change. As company and people have found out that they can get as much work done by working from home. Do you have to walk up to a person at a front desk to check in? Do you have to, you have to go to work to take reservations? Room service, if I pick up a phone and order room service at a hotel, does that person have to be in the building? The same thing in a restaurant. Marketing, sales, housekeeping, purchasing, human resources, all of these types of positions can actually be done from home. Yes, there will be a crew or robots that will be working in the hotel or restaurant to actually perform the services, but the actual decision making, the actual sales, the actual communication can be done from home. So give some thought to that. I want you to start thinking about not today, not tomorrow, but a year from now, what are you going to be doing? What kind of future do you want for yourself? How are you going to use technology to position yourself for success? And I hope that by watching the Jetsons, you saw that even though it was 1962, which was before the internet, before computers, all those things were visions of young people who had ideas of the future, and we're living that future today. And I know in another 20 years, maybe one of you, actually the one who added our survey, will be living on Mars. So I hope that will motivate you to start looking at the future and preparing yourselves. And thank you very much for your participation. And I look forward to hearing some questions from the audience.
Fantastic, Dr. Andy. What a great presentation. And I'm not sure how many of our audience members today would have recognized the Jetsons and the music, but I think you made a fantastic point there, putting cartoons up, because cartoons are always a favorite with most people. But how true is some of those predictions that you showed? How many of them have come true? It's unbelievable.
You know, even as I watched, even if I watched this one more time today, they were going to school. See, a year ago, oh yeah, they would go to school, but now it's actually, no, they're not even going to school. They're staying at home and learning from home. So it's a whole different mindset. You see things that you do every single day, and you think that that's the way it's going to be, but things change all the time. You got to get used to it.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's really good. And I think too often we don't spend enough time either as academics or for our students, getting them to think about the future and what it's going to be like living and working in the future, and the two obviously go together for our industry very much so. And you know, I've been working on the class on looking at the future, particularly looking out only just to 2050, which is 30 years away. And it's really quite hard, Andy. I think a lot of, as you said, it's amazing when we look at the cartoons and go, oh, that was a bit obvious, but it really wasn't back in the 60s. It was very, very futuristic and future looking, and some people just don't, I think, really struggle with that, and that's what I found.
Well, you know, if you look at some of the, you know, movies are where you get a lot of creative ideas, and some of the old 2001: A Space Odyssey, that was a great movie that none of our young students would ever have heard of. But in that movie, there was actually an automated robot that controlled the entire ship, and the astronaut was actually talking to the robot, and the robot understood it was artificial intelligence, and all those things. That's a long time ago, and today all those things are starting to happen. So it's amazing how you can base your creative future on current research, and so those are how things are develop over time. I know Marcus has got a wonderful question about the future. I could tell he's a futurist.
Well, I I'm concerned about the future, very concerned, and I'm very concerned with this robotic automation. And one of the reasons why I'm concerned, and my question to you, is to what extent we're going to start to lose the soft skills, the personal touch, the human touch, as we go into automation. And where does, so two parts of the same question, where does, you know, hospitality, tourism, culinary education come in? Because it's all about soft skills, isn't it? And as we go further into the future in terms of a robotic world, what role will soft skills have, and soft skilling, and the human touch? Over to you, Dr. Andy. Thank you.
I guess the question I would say is, you know, a long time ago when we needed money, we would go to a bank and we would stand in line and we'd go to the teller and ask the teller for money. And that's the same teller we see every week. We would talk to them, and it was like a friend at the bank. Now we go to ATM machines. Do I feel bad about that? No, I love ATM machines, because if I need cash, I go to ATM, I push some buttons, and it gives me money. Now I don't even do that. Now you just use your debit card, your credit card, or your cryptocurrency to pay for something online. So how do I feel about that? I'm happy about it because it provides me the time to do other things. But in the hospitality industry, I think the key thing about the hospitality industry is the experience. Yes, I can get money from an ATM machine, but that's not an experience I'm going to remember. So creating experiences is what that cognitive skill will be, so that people will say, how can we exceed this guest's expectations by doing something, even if it's still automated or something else, but you can still provide that excitement and that overachieve their expectations in order to let that guest remember it. People, you know, you hear the word, people go for adventure experiences and all this. Well, I was reading an article the other day, basically, that people are just seeking an escape from boredom. They want to get away from the day-to-day activities that they do. So any escape would be appropriate, but I think that we have to come up with ways to provide that touch, that person-to-person hospitality in conjunction with the technology. So that's why I think, you know, even the art and music, the piano player in the lobby may become more important. Maybe the artist is painting pictures and putting them in the hotel rooms. Maybe the musicians are in the lounge serving creative cocktails. You know, so all those things are creativity, and I think that's going to be the key to success in the future.
Yeah, I think, Marcus, that you raise an interesting issue there, and it's, you know, we've become, I think, very operationally focused in a lot of what we've done in hospitality, tourism, education. I think it's a big time to step back. And, you know, just thinking about your role and the challenges of how we're developing things in education. So as we look at the education structure, we've got diplomas, diplomas, bachelor's, master's, PhD. And, you know, I think as we develop and look into that future, it requires having people in the industry who can see strategically, look at the future and see strategically what will be needed for the operations of the future. So, I mean, I know you've been working quite a bit with master's degrees, and there's quite a difference between, say, what we're perhaps doing, we've been doing an undergraduate degree with master's degrees. And so what do you see as the next evolution of those kind of qualifications, and how do you see it's going to develop?
Well, you know, actually, if you say, you know, I helped create a master's program years ago and changed it a little bit to where it wasn't a typical class every week. It was, these were senior executives. They would fly into Singapore once a month. We would spend 5 days together. Actually, it was every 3 months. They would spend 5 days together, and the interaction was the key. The rest of the course was done online, but the interaction was the key. We would go out to dinner. We would go on tours. We would have guest speakers. It was almost like a little mini conference amongst people same educational goals. And I know that you guys are creating an online master's over at Sunway University. I think that's an example of moving towards the future.
Marcus?
Marcus, why don't you tell us about that master's?
Yes, right.
Thank you very much. And yes, we are. And we have basically validated our first, within the School of Hospitality here at Somewhere University, our first Masters in International Hospitality Management. And we, because of the current situation in the lockdown, we are allowed to run it online. So that's the good news, because we can attract a wider audience and international market. And we will be certainly running it completely online after 1 year. But for this semester, we are online, and we just have to go through a process of the first year because we have face-to-face and online. But current situation, everything at the moment, certainly at this level, it will be online. So that gives us great opportunity in many different ways. And I think the importance of doing the Masters, and I think, Dr. Andy, you said it very clearly. You talked about skills, and you talked about critical thinking skills. In education, we're under so much pressure to think about how our degrees and Masters relate to industry. But in addition to that, there's things that we do within our Masters that is very different than industry. And I think as academics, and we do have people within education, that we have a mixture of people that work in the industry as well, we put a great effort on critical thinking skills. And we must remember that, you know, the hospitality, studying hospitality relates to tourism, relates to events, etc., is a subject area. And we study a subject from a variety of disciplinary points of view, which makes it critical. So when you're studying at a master's level, you go to a higher level, a higher cognitive, and you talked about cognitive skills, a higher cognitive level of thinking. And that is about theologies, you know, the sociology of hospitality, the psychology, the philosophy, ecology. There's a lot of discussion now about, in the new normal, is there going to be an opportunity out there for the industry to go for degrowth, sustainability, these types of things? So the ecologists are getting excited. I'm a bit concerned, because I wonder whether we'll go into binge hospitality, binge consumption, binge tourism, because we've been held back so long. So I'm a little bit aware of that. But nevertheless, different disciplines are giving us different critical thinking. And I think at the master's level, and we certainly do this within our international hospitality degree, a new master's, we get students to think critically. We do concentrate on leadership skills, because this master's is really much about management as well. So that's very important to us. And you mentioned as well, Dr. Andy, you said we have to change our skills to meet the needs of the future. So we are building a master's program to deal with that, and it's designed to meet the requirements of what I call the transformational nature of hospitality. We've got to accept that we're in a very dynamic environment where the hospitality industry is affected by many other macro environments, political, economic, social, etc., etc. And all these are affecting us. And at the moment, climate change, and also unexpected situations like COVID-19. So as a consequence of that, when we study hospitality management, we really have to look at how it's changing and how it's dynamic. So looking at the transformational nature of hospitality. And I think that's key to doing the masters, because you're specializing at a higher level. And I think with our masters, it's about leadership skills, critical thinking skills, as I've mentioned, and trying to get at an extra level. You see, I don't like to say this, but I will, but lots of students now are having degrees. It's good, and we have to do it. It's a stage, and it's a natural stage. But there's so many people with undergrad, you know, bachelors, and that's good, and we encourage it. And it's vital for my job to do so. But to get a master's and to go on to a master's, it's that extra higher level of learning, higher level of discussion, and higher level of criticality. And I think that's one of the important issues in doing a master's, is the very point of trying to get to that higher level of critical thinking.
You know, Marcus,
Right, so go on, Andy.
Thing I want to say based on that is, what, you know, when the world is going well and everybody's making money and occupancy is high and volume is high, it's real easy to be smart. But when things are bad right now, I can tell you that the people out there that are looking at the situation have to look at the future, have to be able to analyze the situation, and have to be able to make decisions on how to change everything. Because people who do the same thing day after day after day, that's the only way they know. So being able to analyze the situation and make those decisions is critical, and a master's program is appropriately the way, that's what they do in a master's program.
Absolutely, and I think the timing is right. I mean, at the moment, we have to be very honest. International mobility is slowed down extremely, hardly, virtually, you know, non-existent in places. We've got real issues of international mobility. Yes, domestic tourism, staycations is something that the industry is focusing on, but it's a very competitive environment out there, and unfortunately, there are challenges. So this is the right time, and what we see in these situations, we see more and more people, whether they come from industry or students going on for a first degree onto their masters, choose education to give them that extra head start to their career and gives them more job opportunities because of that, they're at that higher level. So absolutely, yes.
Well, as you're saying there, you know, as the industry emerges out of this period, I mean, we're obviously in a fairly dark place probably at the moment, it's fair to say, and as Andy was saying, decisions have to be made, some of them very painful, but as recovery happens, and as we're hearing from Al and other people, it's a spotty recovery at the moment, but it will happen. And so businesses, we've heard in past webinar shows we've done about the cruise industry, the airline industry, the challenges they're facing, and how they're going to grow and return to growth out of that. And that's not, as Andy said, just not going to come from, well, what we did last week will work again next week. That's not going to be a solution to going forward, and in terms of strategic planning. So thanks very much for that, Mark, because I think that's really given us some interesting insights into the type of thing you're working on, and some of the subjects that you've got going on there. Alan, back to you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, thanks very much, Marcus, for your insights into that space and for sharing your thoughts. I think they complement and add very nicely to Andy's presentation. Can we just have some closing comments? Any closing comments, questions for Andy before we move the show on? I know Paul Whitelaw, I just want to pick up on this comment. He said in 1992, the board of IGH was offering the opportunity to get into the online world, and they declined. We're not computer people, we are hospitality people, and the rest is history. What are your thoughts there, Dr. Andy?
Well, you know, everybody makes a mistake. There was a time when the Swiss watch companies didn't want to go for a digital watch, and so they missed out on that entire industry change. But in the hospitality industry, the future is different. The future, if you look at even some Las Vegas, the area, which is a brand new modern hotel, high-tech rooms, well, occupancy is down. So what have they done? Well, turn your room into your office. If you're going to work from home, you might as well work from a very nice place. And we will bring you food, and we will give you entertainment, and you can sit by the pool. So instead of going there for a vacation, you're actually going to the hotel to work in an environment that is high-tech, high connectivity, and provides the services to make you working from a remote location more comfortable. So that's it.
Thank you. Perry, any closing comments from yourself?
Well, look, I think Andy's hit up on a range of really critical issues as we're looking, because we're so focused in, dare I say, short-termism. You know, it's listening to the news every day, getting the latest thing, but we've got to look forward. And even during normal times, dare I say, it's quite hard, and my experience has been it's quite challenging. During a period such as a black swan event like COVID, it's probably even harder to get people to focus on the future. But as I remember Albert Einstein always saying, you know, I'm more focused on the future because that's where I'm going to spend the rest of my life. And we've got to keep ourselves focused on that future. And however rocky the initial parts may be, we've got to look through that. Businesses are making decisions. They're going to keep making decisions on infrastructure, which will have impacts in 5, 10, 20 years time from now. So let's not forget those perspectives. And I think that's really important. And that's why we need people with master's education who are looking at the industry and able to help businesses make those decisions now.
Thanks, Professor Perry. And I guess on that note, first of all, let me just thank our guest for today, Professor Marcus Stevenson. Thank you, Marcus, for joining us. Hang around. I'm just wanting to thank you for your comments and thank you for your addition.
Enjoyed it.
Of course, Dr. Andy, what a great presentation. There's some very, very positive comments coming through there. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and thank you for sharing your presentation today. everybody, please join with me in one of the virtual rounds of applause for Dr. Andy on a very, very interesting presentation today. Thank you very much, Dr. Andy.
It's fun to talk about the future.
What I'll do is just share my screen and we'll move on with the show. And on that note, everybody, if you can just once again think about our academic partners. As you know, without our academic partners and our academic partner program, there won't be any show like we're able to present to you. And of course, Perry, if I can just ask you to run through our academic partners one more time.
Yes, and again to the partners who've really helped us, whether it's been our friends at COREP, our new academic supporters from this week onwards. This is the ICE, the International Centre for Excellence in Tourism and Hospitality Education, international accreditation body. Our friends from NCUT in Taiwan, the Macau Hospitality and Tourism Educators, from Nepal, Silver Mountain Hotel School, Heli in Australia, LPU in the Philippines, and the School of Travel Industry Management at the University of Hawaii. And again, a big thank you to Marcus joining us, my colleague from Sunway University.
Thank you very much, Perry. And ladies and gentlemen, as usual, the 30-minute talks, we have another fantastic show lined up for you next week. Dr. Andy, tell us a little bit about next week's show.
Yeah, you know, we've talked about restaurants, we've talked about bars, we've talked about hotels, but next week we're going to talk about the MICE industry. Now, not those little guys that run around on the floor, but the meetings, incentive, conferences, and exhibitions, because they have been devastated like every other part of our business, because conventions are people getting together to share ideas, to exchange gifts, to purchase new products. And it's been devastated around the world. And I know our guest speaker, Rod Kamlasarwaran, is a consultant who does a lot of international work, specifically in the MICE industry. And he wrote a very interesting article, which I will be sending with a link when we send out our next e-flyer, so you can read that article. And he's going to give us some trends about the future, about the MICE industry, because the MICE industry is going to have to change too. And I think it's one of the things that even Marcus was talking before. They've been offered to go online for many years. Now they're being forced to go online. So how do you do that? How do you take the MICE industry, which is a people event, and turn it into an online event? That's going to be a very interesting discussion next week. And we're looking forward to having Rod join us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Andy. And as our time moves on, everybody, unfortunately, this brings another 30-minute show closely to an end. And on that note, Perry, why don't you take this opportunity to say goodbye to everybody?
Again, thanks very much, everybody, for joining us. Whether you're a student, whether you're an educator, we really do appreciate your support, your questions. We hope we're delivering and continue to deliver relevant, timely content, thought-provoking. That's what our goal is. And so, again, thank you for particularly our academic partners for your ongoing support with all that.
Thanks very much, Perry. Professor Marcus Stevenson, our guest for today, why don't you say your few closing remarks to our guest for today?
Yes, it's been wonderful being here. I need to come on more often. I know Professor Perry's encouraged me, so it's a really big push from him. I'm really happy to be here, and it's wonderful. I think it's extremely well organized what you're doing, and it's a credit to you all. It's good, and good to see a response from our audience as well. So thank you very much to you, and thank you very much to the audience, and thank you for listening.
Thank you again for joining us, Professor Marcus. We look forward to hearing from you down the track. What about you, Dr. Andy, if you'd like to say goodbye?
Well, we always have fun putting together the different topics every week, and we need everyone to join us, to motivate us to do more. And I know even Marcus, even though he visited today, he's already signed up to do a presentation, I think.
Absolutely.
September or October. So he's going to be joining us and doing a presentation on his specialty. And we appreciate everyone spending time every week on 30-minute talks.
Thanks, Dr. Andy. And once again, everybody, don't forget to scan the QR code. There's the QR code in front of you now. And I know Dr. Andy will put that in the chat box as well. The QR code is specifically for you to take part in the program survey. And as you know, if you're wanting one of our much sought after 30-minute talk certificates, you must complete the survey and you must complete the comments and tell us about the top 3 takeaways or top 3 learnings that you've taken from today's show, and that'll qualify you for the certificate. And from myself, everybody, Alan Williams, thank you again for joining us. I'm speaking to you from Perth, West Australia. Until next week, goodbye, everybody, and keep safe. Thank you.